Today we are going to learn about beings, all beings. What Buddha has to say about this. I'm sure some of you got a chance to read the article that we provided you in the email. To go along with that, we will discuss some of the aspects that Buddha taught in his teaching in regard of beings. So in Buddhism, beings, all beings are seen as sentient beings, and said that every being has a right to live in this world. Why beings are called sentient beings? We must understand that first. May I ask that question from you? Why Buddha or anyone called these beings as sentient beings? Anybody has any idea? Thank you. So, of course, it is because beings are conscious of their surroundings. In Buddhism, beings are composed of 5 things. We call them panchaskandha, or 5 aggregates. I'm sure in one of our monthly meetings we have discussed this in details, and so I'm not going to go in detail about this teaching called 5 aggregates. So let me give you a list: form, feeling, perception, volition, and consciousness. So in one of the discourse, Buddha said, just like all the parts creates a vehicle, right? When you combine, assemble all the parts, we see what we call a vehicle. Just like that, when these 5 components or 5 aggregates are there, a being is there in the world. So you see, form, there's a physicality, and there's a feeling. So this list clears out one of the misconceptions that people have in the world, that some animals don't have feelings, or animals are being created for the uses of man. Right? So there's a perception, recognition, we call it sometime, and there's a volition and consciousness, being conscious. And that's why beings are called sentient beings. This is a common nature in all beings, according to Buddha's teaching. And in Buddhism, beings are born in 31 different planes of existence according to their karmic results. We call this the law of cause and effect. There are 31 different planes of existence in Buddhist cosmology. Now we see some different beings among us, right? We see human beings, we see animal beings, animals, insects, tiny beings. So we see differences in sizes, behaviors. All these planes of existence are categorized into three. And we are not going in detail about them either today because we're talking about beings. So there are three categories: Kamaloka, Rupaloka, and Arupaloka. Sensual world, we call it the realm of form and realm of formless. So all the beings that we see, we hear, like humans, animals, spirits, deities, they're all in the first category, which is called Kamaloka, or sensual world. We all are based on sensual. And so there's only one human world, human beings, and then there are 6 deva world, or divinities or deities, 6 types of heaven, if that makes sense. So not one heaven. In Buddhism, we talk about different types of heavens according to the goodness of, the deities. Then there's animal world, the animal world. Then there is called preta or peta, spirits of the dead. Right, when our loved ones departs, we practice generosity and we share merits with those departed ones, wishing their next birth a happy one. And then there is a called beings who are born in called asuras, demonic beings. As far as I understand, these beings, there are different interpretations. One interpretation is that they live nearby ocean, based on ocean. And there's another interpretation is called these beings live in between humans and the deities. So there are 2 interpretations. There are more, I guess. And these are the 2 that I have heard. There's the last one, hell, niraya. So beings live in hell. So according to Buddhism, the last 4 that I mentioned, animal world, preta world, or demonic world beings, and then niraya, the hell world, they all are considered as hell, the 4 hells. So you see, beings are in different levels, different existence, according to their karmic result. So if a person, this is a very common in almost all religious teachings, that if you do good, you will be born to a heavenly world. If you do bad, you will be born to hell realms. And this applies even in Buddhism too. So we call this karma, cause and effect. If you do good, then good comes as an effect of your good activity. If you do bad, then there's a bad result. But what's important to know is that beings in all this existence experience this common phenomena, which is called dukkha, suffering or unsatisfactoriness, which is due to impermanent nature. So in Buddhism, even the heaven or hell are impermanent, which is different than other religious views where they have this eternal living in heaven with God if they live a pious life, or if they did unwholesome, horrible things in life, they will be in hell forever. But in Buddhism, we don't have such permanency even in those existence. So because of impermanent nature, there is unsatisfactoriness that all beings in all existence experience. We call these three characteristics universal characteristics, which are anicca, dukkha, anatta, impermanent, unsatisfactoriness, and insubstantial. So three universal characteristics. So you see that all these existence are conditioned, right? It's because of something you did, you born in one of those existence. And when the fruits of your action expires, then you reborn in some other existence. So there is rebirth, punabhava, we call it in Pali. There's rebirth or rebecoming. And the other two that I mentioned, the two categories of the realm of form and realm of formless, are reserved for gods of higher achievements. Sometimes we call them Brahma Loka. There are different levels of Brahma Loka. So we are not going to go in detail about these existence, because what matters here today for us is that all beings in all existence are suffering, experiencing impermanence, dukkha, and insubstantiality, anatta. So in that sense, we see that all beings have common experiences, common interest. Can you name a very obvious common interest among all beings?
All beings want to eat.
Right? That's one of the very common, very obvious interests that every beings have. You know, once Buddha asked, Ekanama king, what is one thing? And the answer was given, Sabbe satta aharatika. That means all beings subsist on food, depends on food. Very good, right? So yeah, we see that we have more commonality with all beings than differences. When we look in that perspective, we see that we are more common in our existence, how we are formed, right? I always think that, you know, the pet that live with us, like dog or a cat, you know, or parrot, you know, whatever the pet we have among us, you know, they also learn our behaviors, you know, it's so fascinating to see that sometimes they understand our feelings, you know. They try to say something to us, and we kind of get that's what this, you know, being is telling us. The more you live with them, the more you understand their behaviors, you know, their life. And so we see that, you know, I'm sure some of you may live with them, and you know what I'm trying to say, that you see them as part of your family more and more, you know. Some people, you know, when I came to this world, to this country for the first time, and I saw dogs sitting in the car, dogs, you know, lying down on your bed, it seems so unusual for me, you know, because I've never seen dog is lying on your bed, you know, eating on your plate. But after, you know, being with them for some time, you realize they are part of you and they're part of your family. They have become your sons and daughters. They have become part of your life. And so when we know the commonality of all sentient beings, what must be done then? We must put every bit of effort to coexist with them, right? Harmoniously, practicing loving kindness and compassion. Isn't that the theme of today's article that you read?
Yes.
How to become an ally with all sentient beings. Why even we need to talk about this if all sentient beings experience dukkha, impermanent? It is because we have forgotten this. When we look around the world, we see that we are acting like, you know, people or beings that we meet are not part of us. So the article very clearly said how much we are interconnected with all beings, right? The example of the tree is so fascinating, you know, just this tree, not even a pet, a tree can remind us how much we are interconnected with this world. I see a dog there. What's his name?
His name is Milo.
Milo. Great. Wonderful. Wonderful that he's joining us. Yeah, I was listening to, actually reading this article where this lady wanted her aging dog to receive a blessing from this great Lama. You know, a famous Lama came from Tibet to bless upon all the, you know, people who were who came to listen his talk. And so this lady just thought, you know, people believe that when Lama do a blessing, you know, they receive longevity. And so this lady wanted her dog to receive longevity, long life. And so she tells her story how she was able to get from home to, you know, in the midst of this crowd and make that opportunity to meet the Lama and get the blessing from him for her dog, not for her. She was there for her dog, not for herself. And it's so fascinating that how she recalls this experience and put in words. And I was listening. That's wonderful. How she saw that, you know, this aging dog has become part of her life, and wishing longevity for this dog. So we see these examples very few we see opposite of this very much in our society, in our world. Because when we turn on TV or on our devices, we see lots of negativities like hate, fear, fights, violence. All the negativities are being shown, promoted, re-promoted, right? Retweeted, right? That's the modern term that we use. Tweet, right? People tweet. So we see lots of negativities. It's because people don't take a pause and contemplate on this simple reality that we all are sentient beings. We all have feelings. We all have this experience, common experience of dukkha, right? Buddha said all beings experience dukkha, suffering, unsatisfactoriness. And so, according to Buddha, he says we should compare ourselves with all other beings. He says, Sabbe tasanti dandasa, sabbe bhayanti machuno, sabbe attanang upamankatva nahaneya nagataye. All beings are afraid of punishment. All beings fear death. Comparing oneself with others, other sentient beings, let not kill or harm anyone. That is the Buddha's definition of showing love and compassion. Always put ourselves into the shoes of others, because we often don't do that. We often defend ourselves, that I have the right to live, so I should defend myself. And whatever belief, whatever this that we have a right to harm others, we have a right to kill other beings. Recently, I heard the news that the sales of gun went 400% higher during this pandemic. I was surprised and shocked. What? Beings are suffering from this pandemic, and what is going up? Sales of weapons. So we see where this humanity is heading. It's very obvious that people don't see each other as sentient beings anymore. People see each other as enemies, foes. And so humans have a very special place in Buddhism. Of course, we see that we all are sentient beings. We all experience dukkha. We all go through this birth, aging, sickness, death, and rebirth, the cycle of birth and death. But still, human beings have a special place in Buddhism. Once, Buddha picked sands on his fingernails and showed to the monks. What do you think, monks? Which is more, which is greater? Sands on my fingernail or on the earth? And the monk says, Bhante, it is obvious that sands on the earth is far greater. There is no comparison between sands on the earth and sands on your fingernails. Fingernail sands is very little, very few. Buddha said, similarly, sentient beings are born as humans is like sands on the fingernail. Sentient beings who are not born as humans are like the sands on the earth. That's how Buddha placed the human beings in this chain of human in the chain of these sentient beings. And he said, therefore, monks, you should strive diligently to end the dukkha, to end the suffering of this life, of this world, to be free from this cycle of birth and death again and again. One should practice diligently, without delay. That's how he encouraged his monks into the practice, into the monkshood. In another discourse, he said, suppose a man throws a wooden cattle yoke into the ocean, and this yoke has one hole, and it's floating on this vast sea, tossing from east to west, from north to south. And there was a blind turtle that would come up to the surface of the ocean once every 100 years. Blind turtle, remember? And Buddha asked from the monks, monks, what do you think that this blind turtle will insert its head to this yoke with a single hole? And the monk said, Bhante, it is very unlikely that this blind turtle will insert its head to this yoke with a one hole. Similarly, Buddha said, similarly, being born as humans is very, very rare. And so we see that as humans, we have these special abilities, right? In our common sense, we see that we have a mind that can be developed, right? Developed to the level that you liberate yourself like the Buddha, like all those enlightened beings, right? And help all the sentient beings to be free from dukkha, right? That's what our Shakyamuni Buddha did. He liberate himself, and he opened up this path to all the sentient beings for their salvation. On the other hand, this very mind that we have, which is so capable, can be so destructive. This very mind has created weapons in this world that can destroy the whole world in a split second, in few seconds. So we see this human mind, the capacity or capability of this human mind can turn very wholesome and very unwholesome. And so in meditation, we fight this battle, basically, right? When we close our eyes, as soon as we close our eyes, our mind is disturbed. Our mind is trying to be wholesome at one moment, and next moment, because of the past experiences, past conditioning, mind turns unwholesome, right? So greed, anger, jealousy, all those unwholesome sides can manifest at one moment, and next moment there is peace, there is what we call letting go, there is very aware moment of this breath, right? Very calm and quiet moment, and next moment very agitated moment. So we see the battle between wholesome mind and unwholesome mind, and we have to win that battle. Buddha said very clearly in one of his teaching, winning this battle, the battle we have within us, is better than winning the battle, 1,000 battles in the battlefield. So Buddha won this battle between unwholesome and wholesome. So that is why we say first, avoid unwholesome. That's why we try to speak wholesome, we try to act wholesome, we try to think wholesome. That's why the 5 precepts are there. So you say, I promise not to kill, not to harm, I promise not to steal, I promise not to have sexual misconduct, I promise not to lie, I promise not to take intoxications. These are called the 5 basic principles that we try to do physically and verbally, so that when you sit in meditation, we can uproot, abandon the mental impurities, right? The verbal and the physical are much more gross, and we can see the impact of our actions, but the mental unwholesome actions are much more subtle. When you contemplate deeply, every words, every actions that we perform are coming from where? Coming from this mind. And so whatever unwholesome that we see around the world, through words and actions, should remind us that the condition of the mind, how much wholesome or unwholesome is present in that individual who speaks or acts. And so there's a saying, don't go changing the world, change here, change yourself, right? People argue why there's no peace in the world, right? What can we do to make the peace in the world? We always try to change the world, change the surrounding, but Buddhism, the Buddhist practices teaches us to change here in this world. And so by learning about all beings, that all beings are sentient beings and have all the what we call all the rights to live peacefully, harmoniously in this world. So we develop metta, loving kindness within us, so that we live in the world peacefully and harmoniously, and when we live peacefully and harmoniously, we let others to live peacefully and harmoniously. So the change should start within. So as I said, I heard this news, that news, all these negativities, and if I don't change within myself, that if I don't choose love over hate, if I don't choose compassion, sharing over anger, jealousy, then whatever I see in the world is no different than me, right? People do all the negativities because of anger, because of hatred and jealousy. And if I watch those news and generate same anger, hatred, negativities, then there is no change. And so learning about the Dhamma, the teaching and meditation is to change here, right? And so this short talk is to bring the transformation in our mind, in our habit, in our notion, so that we see the world with love and compassion, not through hate and aversion. We see the world with caring, because we know that all beings are in the boat of suffering. So we all are in the boat of suffering. And so practice love. Choose love over hate. Choose compassion. Choose sharing. So these teachings are ever important than ever than before, because the world is in this unprecedented period of ailments, fear, worries, and all the negativities, right? So let's end our talk here with sharing love again, as I said, with the intention that may all the merits that we have acquired by this practice of meditation and listening to the Dhamma, whatever we acquired the merits, let's share with the world. May all beings share our merits. May all beings be happy, be peaceful, be free, be liberated. May all beings enjoy peace and harmony, promote peace and harmony. And by this practice, may we all be blessed with good health, peace, happiness, joy, and longevity. May no harm come to us, may no difficulties come to us. May we cultivate love, kindness, compassion, and sympathetic joy. May we have strength, courage, and determination to continue this noble practice in our everyday life. And finally, may we all experience inner peace, inner happiness. Thinking thus, please say, Sadhu, Sadhu, Sadhu.